Hey, tonight, we are going to talk about how people slept in the Middle Ages. Friends, welcome back to our channel. I'm so excited to have you here with us today, and I'm thrilled to share some amazing content with you. You know, life is all about the journey, and here at our channel, we're all about making that journey as fun, informative, and inspiring as possible. We've got a fantastic lineup of videos planned for you. We've got you covered. And if that's not enough, we've also got some awesome tips and tricks for improving your life and making the most of every day. So, what are you waiting for? Hit that subscribe button, turn on notifications, and join us on this incredible journey. Trust me, you won't regret it. Thank you so much for your support, and I can't wait to see you in our next video. Until then, stay awesome, stay inspired, and keep exploring. I want to thank you guys for showing love to my videos. I hope it makes you sleep well. Close your eyes and enjoy before the hum of streetlights, before alarm clocks, before glowing rectangles kept us alert deep. Into the night, there was only dusk, and then darkness. Let us journey back to a time where nightfall truly meant rest. A time when the day's work shaped the rhythm of every household. When light was a blessing and nightfall a surrender. We begin in the countryside, perhaps in the highlands of England, or a quiet river valley in Bohemia. The location hardly matters, for across medieval Europe, dusk came early in the winter months and lingered long in summer. The fading light was universal. It signaled the end of labor, the soft hush of chores, and the beginning of sleep. You might hear it before you see it, the slow creak of a cottage door being drawn closed, the cluck of hens settling in, the last thump of firewood stacked near the door, and then quiet. Imagine the village. ... A scattering of thatched rooftops, nestled between fields of barley and rye. Thin smoke rises from stone chimneys, dark against the fading orange sky. The sun lowers behind a grove of trees. Its light stretches long shadows across the earth, golden at first, then blue, then gray. One by one, shapes vanish into silhouettes. The livestock are penned. The tools return to their places. Family returns indoors. Inside, warmth and dimness. A single fire glows in the hearth, its coals like eyes half open. A pot of pottage simmers. The scent of barley leaks, and wild garlic fills the air. Someone stirs it gently, slowly, as if the motion alone welcomes the end of the day. Above, the rafters catch what little light is left. Dust dances in the air. A wooden beam creaks softly, perhaps in response to the settling cold. The house is not silent, but peaceful, the kind of quiet filled with small human sounds. A sigh, a murmur, the stretch of tired limbs. There is no electricity, no oil lamp, only the fire, and perhaps a rushlight. Rushlights were simple things, dried stalks of marsh grass or rushes, dipped in animal fat and held upright in an iron. Clip. They burned with a gentle flame, a weak light by today's standards, but enough to find your way from one corner of a room to another. Enough to finish mending a hem or a spooning stew into a wooden bowl. Enough to sing one final lullaby. Before sleep, outside, the world has become a sea of shadow. The trees, once green and golden, are now simply outlines. The barn, barely visible. The sky, deeper and deeper blue, until at last it is black dot. No hum of highways, no rumble of distant engines, only the distant howl of a dog, or the high, haunting call of an owl in the trees. Sleep begins not with a sudden switch, but with the slow surrender of the world to darkness. Inside a peasant's cottage, families do not change into pajamas or check a clock. They simply listen to the world growing still. When the light fades, so do the sounds. Voices lower, movement slow. The body, after a full day of walking, bending, carrying, lifting, it is ready. Sleep waits just beneath the skin. A child lays against their mother's side, cradled not by a pillow, but by the rhythm of breath. A dog curls at the foot of a shared straw mattress. There is no fanfare, no reading of books, no scrolling of screens, only the slow breath of surrender. Let us take our time. Let us slow even further now and walk through this world one detail at a time. You are standing in the doorway of a medieval home. Behind you, fields stretch out, shadowed in early night. Ahead, the warm orange of the hearth, casting a lazy flicker across a floor of packed dirt. You step in, the scent of wood smoke, perhaps something cooking in the ashes, chestnuts or onions wrapped in leaves. The low ceiling gives the room a closeness, a womb-like hush. The walls are timbered, rough, irregular. A few cloths hang drying near the fire. Someone has laid a woolen blanket over a chair. You hear the quiet splash of someone rinsing their hands in a basin. A child hums a melody, an old folk tune, barely more than a whisper. To your left, a wooden chest, its lid slightly open. Inside, neatly folded linen, a patch of cloth, perhaps a comb carved from bone. A small wooden doll peeks out to your right. The bedding, straw, layered with cloth. Two adults lie side by side. Children curled like cats at their feet. One has already begun to snore softly. Outside, the stars are coming out. There are no city lights to blot them out. The sky is clean, a true velvet black. The stars are visible, even near the horizon. The Milky Way pours across the sky like smoke. The moon is thin, maybe a crescent hung low. It casts a silver glow onto the rooftops. The streets of the village are now completely dark. Only the houses with open shutters let out faint, golden glows. Perhaps the local priest has retired to his books by candlelight, his fingers blackened with ink. Perhaps a mother sits quietly spinning wool, turning the wheel with slow, rhythmic motion, her head nodding with fatigue. But for most, the night has begun. Even the language of time was different. There were no minutes, no seconds, no 9 p.m. news or 11 p.m. bedtime. Time was kept by the church bell, by the turning of the stars, by the feeling in your own body. The 6th hour after dusk, the cock's 3rd crow, the hour of matins. You knew the time not from a number, but from the color of the sky, the chill in the air, the weight of your eyelids. The rhythm was slower. The people of the Middle Ages lived by the light. They rose with the dawn. They worked when the sun allowed. And when night came, when the Fields could no longer be tilled, the grain no longer milled, the fish no longer caught. They turned inward. The night was not for productivity. It was not for emails or spreadsheets. It was not for scrolling through images of distant places. It was for resting bones, for dreams, for breath. It was for the closing of eyes and the deepening of the self. Now, if you listen, truly listen, you may hear the creak of old beams above, the far-off sigh of the wind through shuttered slats, the tiny hiss of a log settling deeper into ashdot. You may hear your own breath joining the rhythm, the slowing, the state. And now, just as the peasant did, you too may close your eyes. Not all the way, not yet, but gently. There is no need to rush, no need to do, only to be, to feel the warmth of the imagined hearth, the softness of straw beneath a woolen blanket, and the deep black sky waiting outside the shuttered window. The day is done, the stars are bright, and in the stillness of a world long gone, you too may rest. Let the night fall. Let it fall. All around you. Asterisk, soft harp, and low. Wind, ambience. The sound of a distant church bell tolling midnight. Somewhere between sunset and sunrise. Between the warmth of the hearth and the chill before dawn. A soft hour tucked between two dreams. A time when people rose in the night, not in haste or fear, but in quiet. Tonight, we return to that lost. Our asterisks today, we think of sleep as a single block, one stretch of unconscious rest, perhaps 7 or 8 hours, if we are lucky. But for much of human history, particularly in the Middle Ages, this was not the case. Medieval people often slept in 2 parts, known as first sleep and second sleep. This was not unusual. It was simply the rhythm of life. People would go to bed shortly after nightfall, perhaps an hour or 2 after sunset. After a full day of labor, the body slipped easily into rest. This first sleep would last for 4 hours or so, but then they would wake. The midnight hour was not feared, but accepted. A natural waking occurred. The body stirred. The mind softened. For an hour, sometimes 2, people would rise gently in the dark, and then, just as naturally, they would return to bed, to dream again, to slip into second sleep, which lasted until the cocks crow or the light of dawn through shutters. This was not insomnia. This was not discomfort. It was a built-in rhythm, shaped by candlelight, firelight, and the dark. Asterisk, so what happened in those quiet, moonlit hours between first and second sleep? The answers are gentle and many. Some people tended the fire, a small ritual lifting the iron poker, coaxing the coals to life, feeding in a dry stick or 2. The red glow returning slowly, a bit of warmth to carry into the second half of the night. Others used the time for prayer, the monastic hours, especially in Benedictine orders. The monks would rise in the darkness, robes rustling in, stone corridors to gather in candlelit chapels. Their chants would echo in vaulted halls, while the rest of the world lay still. But it wasn't only monks who found purpose in the night. Asterisk. In village homes, a mother might check on a child. A father might step outside for a moment to breathe the night air, to relieve himself, to listen to the quiet world. Neighbors sometimes visited one another, especially in close-knit communities. A candle lit, a knock on a door, a bit of wine shared, conversation in a whisper. The hour was known for dream-telling. People remembered their first sleep's dreams with clarity. They might discuss them quietly, search for meaning, wonder what message had been sent. Some wrote, some thought, some even worked if the light allowed. Spinners might turn the wheel. Scholars might read from worn manuscripts. And yes, lovers found each other in the dark. Writers of the period, from France to Italy to England, describe how this interlude between sleeps was considered the most fertile time for intimacy. The body relaxed and warm, the mind still and quiet. The world outside gone, it was not a time of productivity, but a time of presence. Asterisk. Today, we might call this pattern biphasic, sleep, in the 1990s. Sleep researchers studying pre-industrial societies noticed something strange. When people lived without artificial light, they naturally drifted into two periods of sleep, divided by a wakeful hour or so in the middle of the night. Exactly like in the medieval world, it turns out. This pattern is deeply biological. It aligns with the release of certain hormones in the brain, prolactin, for example, which surges during this middle hour. Prolactin is the hormone of calmness, of restful awareness, not stress, not urgency, but quiet in modern studies. When people are allowed to follow only natural light, many fall into the same to-sleep rhythm within days. It suggests that this is the way we are meant to sleep, or at least a way we used to know, deep in our bones. Medieval people didn't have to think about this. They didn't question it. They just lived it. The body knew what to do. The hour between sleeps was often called the watch. It was not a time of panic, nor of action. It was more like a holy pause. Some homes were completely still, perhaps only the shifting of a blanket, the snore of a child, or the creak of timber. In the wind, in others, there might be the soft whisper of prayers, a hand tracing a wooden cross over a chest, a mother nursing an infant, the gentle lap of water poured into a basin, the turning of a page, or the rolling of a spindle. The darkness, instead of feeling threatening, often felt protective. No urgency, no schedules, no pressure, just space. A hidden hour, gifted to the soul. For the pious, it was a time to ask for guidance. For the lonely, a time to feel accompanied. For the tired, a time to stretch gently, sip something warm, and prepare for dreams once more. Even in castles and noble halls, this hour existed. Servants might move quietly, tending fires. A scribe might unroll parchment for a final thought. A noblewoman might sit near a shutter, watching the sky, thinking of her children, her land, or a poem she once knew by heart. Asterisk. After this slow, quiet wakefulness, sleep would return, not forced, not rushed, just as naturally as the stars moved across the sky. The second sleep would come, the fire might be stirred once more. The candles snuffed, blankets pulled higher, a shared bed shifting gently. A sigh, a stretch, and then, slowly, the body would soften again. This second sleep was often filled with vivid dreams. Medieval texts described this sleep as lighter, more colorful, often more spiritual. It was the sleep of visions, of soft thoughts. It was not uncommon to remember dreams from the second sleep as messages from saints, angels, or God. These dreams were recorded in journals, discussed with priests, and passed down as stories. In some ways, second sleep was even more precious than the first. It carried you to morning, to the light of dawn. The sound of roosters and the first breath of cold air through open shutters. It was a second chance to let go, to drift, to rest. Asterisk, soft wind, crackle of fire, mellow-toned lute hums faintly in the background. We begin, before the memory foam, before the four-poster frame, before the silent mattress warehouses that line the highways. There were straw-filled sacks, rough wool blankets, and warmth not of temperature, but of closeness. Let us return once more, gently, to the Middle Ages, a place to lay one's head. Imagine, if you will, the moment after the candle is blown out. The embers are tucked beneath ash. The day is done. The shutters are drawn closed with a wooden peg. And now, the body must rest. But where? Not every sleeper of the medieval world had a bed as we know it. And even when they did, the word bed meant many different things, depending on where you stood in society. Let us start in the most humble of spaces, a peasant's home, a single-room cottage, walls of wattle and daub, roof thatched with straw, the floor packed hard with earth and sometimes smoothed with lime or ash. In one corner, bedding, perhaps not a separate structure, just a pile of straw raked together from the barn, laid atop a frame of old boards, or even directly on the ground. Upon this, a coarse linen sheet, or a woolen cloth, if the family could spare it. In winter, a second blanket. In wealthier homes, the straw might be stuffed inside a fabric sack, what they called a tick, and this would form a kind of mattress. But for many, the bedding was loose and shared. A bed for many in the middle. Age's sleep was often a communal act in a small peasant household. The entire family might sleep together. Parents, children, an infant near the mother, perhaps even a grandparent, a cousin, or a servant. There was comfort in closeness. Body heat was precious. In the chill of a stone-walled winter, it was a kind of survival. Some homes had a box bed, a wooden frame enclosed on 3 sides, with a curtain or door on the 4th, a bed like a cupboard. This offered warmth and a sense of privacy, even within a shared room. A traveler in 14th century Brittany once wrote of seeing a family of 7 rising from a single bed and laughing as they helped one another get dressed. This closeness was not only normal, it was expected. The bed as furniture for the slightly more fortunate, a miller, a blacksmith, a cloth merchant. The bed began to evolve into something more recognizable, a wooden frame, ropes or slats stretched across it. Upon this, a straw mattress, perhaps even a feather bed if the household had a goose or two to spare. Feather beds were luxurious, light, warm, prone to shifting and needing fluffing, but deeply valued. On top of the mattress, sheets, usually linen, hand-woven, washed sparingly. Blankets were made of wool, tightly woven, scratchy but insulating. In noble houses, a fur throw might be added, squirrel, fox, or marten, atop it all, the coverlet. A heavy, often decorative cloth, sometimes embroidered or dyed, not just for warmth, but for beauty. The bed could be the most expensive item in the household, and so it was treated with reverence. The curtain and the canopy by the 14th and 15th centuries. The wealthiest began to sleep in great beds, not only for rest, but for display. These were four-poster beds, often made of oak or walnut, carved with crests or religious symbols. Thick curtains enclosed the sleeper from all sides. The curtains were not mere decoration. They held in warmth, muffled sound, and protected against drafts or vermin. Inside the bed, the space felt small, private, like a cocoon. A noble woman might read prayers before sleep. Seated upright in her curtained bed, a servant waiting with a candle. A lord might summon a cup of warm wine or speak softly with his steward before retiring. Some beds were so large, they earned names. The great bed of Ware, for instance, was over 10 feet wide and could sleep 6 or more. But even in these grand chambers, the sleeper was rarely alone. Company and the night servants often slept nearby. On truckle beds that rolled out from beneath the masters, children slept with parents. Guests shared space. Inns placed travelers 2 or 3 to a bed. Even if they were strangers, it was common to sleep beside someone whose name you did not know. In monasteries, monks lay side by side in dormitories, identical cots arranged with ritual precision. Silence was kept, bodies still, each monk covered by a coarse blanket and a hooded robe. There was no embarrassment in sharing sleep. No expectation of solitude. The night was a shared thing. The breath of the seasons, sleep changed with the seasons. In summer, the heat of thatched roofs drove people to seek cooler rest. Windows were propped open, doors left ajar. People slept atop blankets, not beneath them. Some moved outdoors, onto balconies, into gardens, or under the eaves. In winter, the opposite windows were shuttered tightly. Beds were piled high. Some people even slept in their day clothes, curled beneath wool cloaks and capes. A hot stone, wrapped in cloth and heated near the fire, might be placed at the foot of the bed. The hearth would be stoked before sleep and carefully banked with ash to last until morning. Sleep was a seasonal art, practiced differently month by month. Sounds, smells, and small visitors. The night was rarely silent. There were creaks in the beams, wind through the shutters, mice in the walls, the soft huff of animals, dogs, pigs, even chickens, sometimes kept indoors. The air carried its own textures, the scent of smoke, of wool, of old thatch, and human breath. Bedbugs, fleas, and lice were constant companions, despite laundering and combing. Cleanliness was valued. beds were beaten with sticks and aired outdoors, but perfection was impossible. And yet, people slept, not in sterile silence, but in the company of sound and scent and breath, sacred sleep in monasteries. Sleep was bound to prayer. The monk retired, knowing he would be woken for matins, the midnight prayers. His bed was simple, a wooden plank. The stars were not always far away. In the medieval world, they were a ceiling, a companion, a kind of roof made of silver and silence. Before the age of streetlights, before the hum of cities and the warmth of central heating, sleep was often a thing of the earth. People slept outdoors because they had no home, because they were traveling, because they were watching over flocks or over one another. In this chapter, we will wander with them, slowly, softly, and fall asleep as they once did beneath the long breath of the night. The field bed, peasants, and the open sky picture, a wide field at harvest time. The wheat has been cut. The sun has gone. And in the corner of a yellowed meadow, 3 laborers stretch out on a canvas cloth. Their tools are bundled nearby. Their cloaks are pulled over their shoulders, and their faces are turned toward the stars. Outdoor sleep was not always planned. For many rural workers, the fields were both workplace and bedchamber. During harvest or planting, when daylight hours stretched long and barns were full, a laborer might sleep in the open. Perhaps they were far from home. Perhaps they were guarding the grain. Or perhaps they simply laid down for a short rest and drifted into the kind of sleep that does not wait for permission. They might tuck hay beneath their heads. They might pull a hood low over their brow. And if it rained, they would wait it out, huddled under a woolen cloak, listening to droplets patter against leather boots and bundled tools. The field was cold at night, but it was quiet, and often that was enough. Barns and loft sleepers, not far from the fields or the barns. Dry places, shadowed, filled with the sweet scent of hay and the rustling sounds of mice and grain. For centuries, barns were not only for storing crops, they were places of rest. Laborers curled up in the hayloft. Pilgrims found shelter in a barn's quiet corner. Servants, shepherds, even stray animals might sleep there together, warmed by proximity and straw. A barn had no windows, only slats and gaps where moonlight slipped through like silver thread. It was here that people closed their eyes. Beneath rafters carved by wind and time, some barn sleepers lit a small fire in a pit near the doorway, careful not to scorch the grain. Others kept a lantern burning low beside their bedroll, a dim golden glow nestled inside that vast wooden cathedral. The pilgrim's bed, roadsides, and chapel steps imagined now a narrow dirt road leading out of a village. Along that road, 3 figures move with quiet steps. They wear cloaks patched with the scallop shell, the mark of the pilgrim. On their backs, satchels, blankets, a walking staff. In their eyes, a quiet purpose. They are not seeking an inn. They are not expected anywhere. Tonight, they will sleep under the sky in the Middle Ages. Thousands of pilgrims walked hundreds of miles to reach holy sites: Santiago de Compostela, Canterbury, Rome, or Jerusalem. And along the way, They often slept in the open by chapels and fields, at the base of trees. Some churches opened their porches to travelers. Others rested by bridges, by wells, or by the ruins of shrines. Sleep came in odd hours, often in pairs, with one watching while the other rested. They lay close for warmth. And in the hush between footsteps and dreams, they watched the stars turn slowly above them, like a silent wheel. Shepherds and the sleep of watchfulness high in the hills. The flock is quiet. The sheep have gathered close. And by the fire, a shepherd leans back against a smooth stone, his staff beside him, his dog already asleep. To be a shepherd was to sleep lightly, to wake often, to rest in rhythm with the animals, the weather, and the wind. In summer, shepherds lived outdoors for weeks. They ate simple food, bread, cheese, onions. They drank from flasks and streams. And when night fell, they made their bed from grass and wool, a cloak folded beneath, another wrapped around. They kept one eye open. They were not afraid of the stars, forest sleepers, hermits, poachers, and the hidden ones. The forest was not empty. At its edge lived the forgotten, and deep inside the chosen. Some entered the woods by force, fugitives, poachers, runaways. Others came by faith, monks and hermits, seeking solitude beneath the green cathedral of trees. They did not sleep in beds. They found hollows beneath great oaks, crevices between stones, dens made of woven branches and moss, places where the earth itself became a pillow. The forest was cool, even in summer. At night, the sound of wind through leaves replaced the voice of bells. Owls spoke softly from the canopy. Twigs snapped under the weight of deer. And the moon broke through in silver bands that danced across the forest floor. These sleepers knew their surroundings. They slept near fire when they could, or with knives tucked close. They wrapped themselves in cloaks heavy with dew, and they let the forest hum them to sleep. For some, it was refuge. For others, it was exile. But in both, sleep came. Monastic courtyards and sacred stillness. Now let us walk through cloistered stone. High arches, quiet feet. A monastery built of stillness and prayer. Most monks slept indoors, in shared dormitories lined with cots. But others, the sick, the dying, the deeply penitent, sometimes slept outside, beneath the sky, surrounded by stone. Infirmaries opened onto courtyards. Small beds were carried into gardens in spring and summer, so those too weak to breathe indoors might rest where the air was sweet. A monk may have lain in a simple wooden bed, a woolen robe pulled to his chest, a candle flickering by his side. Above him, ivy, doves, the turning sky. For these sleepers, silence was sacred. Dreams were prayers. Sleep was not an escape, but a passage. Soldiers in camp sleep. The ground is cold beneath a soldier's back. The fire has burned low, and outside the ring of tents, darkness presses against the edges of vision. In medieval campaigns, soldiers often slept rough in fields, behind wagons, under canvas, or in the open. A cloak, a stone for a pillow, the warmth of another man's breath, just a few feet away. In winter campaigns, they dug trenches or built shelters from snow and branches. In summer, they slept in dust. Some dozed in armor. Others removed only their helm and boots before collapsing into exhausted sleep. Guards rotated through watch shifts. The camp never truly slept. But within each small circle of firelight, men closed their eyes and waited for dawn. Sleep was shallow, but dreams came anyway. Travelers and inns with no beds, you are far from home. The sky has darkened. The road is long behind you, and the next town lies beyond the horizon. There is no room at the inn, or perhaps there is no inn at all. So you sleep beside your donkey. You lay down on a cloak. Your boots stay on. Your pouch rests beneath your head. In medieval Europe, many travelers, merchants, messengers, healers journeyed long distances and slept wherever the land allowed, beside rivers, under bridges, in the hollow of a tree. At the base of crumbling ruins, they lit small fires, careful to shield the flame from the wind. They huddled in roadside chapels or under stone archways, and they rested not because they were comfortable, but because they must. Sleep was brief, often broken by footsteps, but it was enough to carry them forward. Sleep and the sound of the night, all these sleepers, in fields, forests, cloisters, and roads shared one constant: the sound of night. Not the silence of modern rooms, but the sound of an earth still breathing, the chirp of crickets, the wind through high branches, the far-off bark of dogs, the creak of a shifting cart, the murmur of a sleeper beside you, caught in dream. Some were soothed by it, others feared it, but all lived inside it. There was no escaping the sounds of the world at rest. You simply gave yourself over to them. Sleep by firelight. In most of these outdoor places, fire was the heart. A campfire, a cook fire, a banked flame in a clay hearth beside the barn door. It gave light. It kept animals at bay. It warmed hands and feet. People gathered near it. A shepherd and his dog, a grandmother and her grandchild, a lone man in the woods, staring at the embers. Before sleep, they watched the fire dance. They stirred the coals. They covered the flame with ash to keep it until morning. And then they turned. They laid down, and they closed their eyes. As the sun slowly sinks beneath the horizon, the world around softens and shifts, preparing itself for the embrace of night. The warm hues of daylight fade into gentle blues and muted purples. A cool breeze stirs the leaves, carrying the faint scent of earth and distant wood smoke. The vast dome of the sky, stretching far beyond what the eye can see, deepens into twilight, unveiling a tapestry of countless shimmering stars in the medieval world. Far removed from the artificial lights and heated homes of today, many found their nightly refuge beneath this vast celestial roof. Walls and beds were privileges granted to some, but for many the laborers in open fields, shepherds on the hills, pilgrims on long journeys, and soldiers on distant campaigns, the earth and sky formed their nightly shelter. Imagine a countryside painted in soft shadows. Fields stretch endlessly, their tall grasses and crops whispering in the wind. The scents of hay, moss, and wildflowers mingle with the crisp evening air. Here people weary from a day's labor find places to rest, sometimes on simple woven cloths laid upon the bare earth, sometimes nestled within barns and haylofts, filled with the scent of dried grass and animals. Their bodies heavy with fatigue, they surrendered to sleep, wrapped in the soft warmth of woolen cloaks. Soothed by the gentle chorus of night, the sounds of the countryside at night are subtle and tender. The rhythmic chirping of crickets, the soft rustling of leaves, the distant call of an owl. These natural lullabies cradled the sleepers, inviting calm and rest. The temperature cools slowly, and a mist may rise, blurring the edges of the world and casting a dreamy veil over fields and forests alike. Throughout the night, the stars wheel silently across the sky, their ancient light a quiet guardian over those resting beneath them. Sleep here is not simply an act of rest. It is a merging with the rhythms of nature, a surrender to the cycles of earth and sky. Beneath this vast canopy, laborers who toiled in the harvest fields found respite. During the busy seasons, when the work stretched long into dusk, it was often impossible to return home each night. So they made their beds where they could on bundles of straw or simple cloths, surrounded by the scent of cut grain and earth. Their tools lay quietly nearby, reminders of the day's work now done. The soft warmth of shared breath and the weight of cloaks brought comfort against the chill, while the steady chorus of insects and the whisper of the wind lulled bodies, heavy with fatigue, into deep rest. Nearby, barns and haylofts offered more sheltered refuge. The scent of dried grasses and the low murmur of animals filled these wooden sanctuaries. Inside, the soft rustling of straw-cushioned sleepers, while the faint flicker of a lantern or fire cast warm light upon time-worn beams. The mingling breaths of humans and beasts formed a quiet harmony, a living lullaby beneath the silent stars outside. Pilgrims journeying long distances also found themselves sleeping outdoors. Wherever the land and road permitted, they rested beneath ancient trees, on the cold stone steps of chapels, or beside wells blessed by tradition. Their cloaks and simple bedding offered scant protection from the chill, but their spirits found solace beneath the heavens. The stars guided their dreams as faithfully as they guided their steps, their silent light a source of hope and constancy on the winding roads of faith. In upland pastures, shepherds watched over their flocks by day and night, wrapped in thick cloaks scented faintly of sheep's wool and earth. Their sleep was light and attentive, often punctuated by the soft stirrings of animals and the crackle of a small fire. They made beds from grass and wool close to their charges, listening to the night's quiet breath and finding rest amid the hills and open skies. Deep in the forests, solitude and shelter mingled beneath the towering trees. Hermits, exiles, and those seeking refuge from the world-crafted beds from moss and leaves, cocooned in damp cloaks that absorbed the forest's cool breath. The night here was alive with whispered sounds, the creak of branches, the distant hoot of owls, the soft footfalls of creatures moving unseen. Sleep was a surrender to the wild's quiet rhythm, a fragile peace cradled by shadows and stars. Within the stone walls of monasteries, courtyards and gardens sometimes served as open-air dormitories for the sick and the penitent. Moonlight, surrounded by herbs and flowers, these sleepers found peace in the sacred stillness. The faint scent of rosemary and lavender mingled with the cool night air, while distant bells tolled softly, marking time and prayer. Sleep here was both rest and spiritual passage, a moment of communion between earth and heaven. Soldiers on campaign faced restless nights beneath the stars, their camps scattered across fields and forests. Armor was sometimes shed for comfort, but often remained, weighing down bodies already heavy with fatigue. Fires flickered in the darkness, their warm light a small island amid cold shadows. Watches kept silent vigil while the weary found brief, precious moments of respite beneath the endless sky. Travelers, merchants, and wanderers, resting wherever the land allowed, found comfort in the sounds of night, the murmur of streams, the rustle of leaves, the distant bark of dogs. Their rest was always fragile, always brief, but vital. Beneath the stars, they surrendered to sleep's gentle embrace before continuing their journeys with the dawn. The natural world was never silent at night. The steady chirp of crickets, the rustling of leaves, stirred by soft breezes, the call of nightbirds, and the gentle splash of water over stones formed a symphony of calm. These sounds wove together into a soothing tapestry, a living presence that cradled all who rested beneath the sky. The turning of the seasons marked the rhythms of outdoor sleep. Spring nights carried the scent of blooming flowers and the bright song of returning birds, signaling renewal and hope. Summer's warm, fragrant evenings were filled with the hum of insects and the dance of fireflies, inviting restful slumber beneath open skies. Autumn nights grew crisp, scented with drying leaves and wood smoke, calling for warmth and reflection. Winter's chill was stark and biting, blanketing the earth in frost and snow, demanding fires, thick clothing, and close companionship. Trust and community were essential under these vulnerable skies. Fires were shared, watchful eyes kept silent. Vigil, and even strangers found quiet comfort in the presence of others. Sleep became a communal act, a ceremony of peace and renewal that bound people together in the night's embrace. Dreams floated gently through the darkness, visions of fields and flocks, saints and sinners, battles fought and blessings given. They were a secret language, a conversation between the sleeping mind and the vast unknown above. As dawn's first light brushed the horizon, those who slept beneath the stars awoke slowly, carrying with them the quiet strength and calm of nights. Rest, let your breath slow, let your thoughts soften. Let the ancient rhythm of sleep beneath the stars settle gently over you now. Rest as those before you did in the calm, endless embrace of the night. As the night deepens and the veil of darkness settles thicker over the landscape, the world around those resting beneath the stars becomes still, yet vibrant in its quiet. Life, the moon, when it appears, casts a soft silver glow that bathes the fields and forests, lending a dreamlike quality to the earth beneath. Shadows lengthen and mingle with the gentle light, painting familiar shapes anew, and inviting the imagination to wander gently in the half-light. For those who sleep beneath this open sky, the night is an intimate companion, a vast and gentle presence that envelops body and spirit alike. The cool air brushes softly against skin, carrying whispers of far-off places and distant memories. The sense of pine and wet earth mingling with the faint, smoky aroma of a dying fire. In this vastness, the sleeper's breath slows, becoming part of the night's rhythm, a soft, steady pulse alongside the rustle of leaves and the chorus of nocturnal creatures in the quiet fields. The last tendrils of warmth cling to the soil and the grain stalks, but the chill of night urges all into stillness. The laborers who spent the day bending low over the earth now lie motionless, their faces softened by rest, their limbs stretched out in surrender to exhaustion. Around them, the natural world continues its ceaseless cycle. The crickets' song swells and fades, the soft flutter of moth wings brushes the air, and the occasional hoot of an owl punctuates the night's tapestry of sound. Sleep in such an open place is vulnerable. Yes, but also deeply connecting. There is a sense of belonging to the great unfolding of the earth's rhythms, of being cradled by the land itself. The cool grass presses softly against the skin. Dew begins to form, settling in tiny droplets that glisten faintly under the moonlight. The body cools and relaxes, sinking gently into a state of rest as the stars wheel overhead. Ancient and constant, barns and haylofts offer a slightly different sanctuary, enclosed but not confined, warm but open to the night's breath. The scent of dried hay is sweet and earthy, mingling with the faint musk of animals resting nearby. Inside, the dim glow of lanterns or hearth fires flickers against wooden beams, casting gentle shadows that dance with the soft movement of sleepers. The quiet breathing of humans and animals creates a gentle hum of life, a comforting presence in the stillness. Here, the night feels heavier, slower, as though the walls themselves absorb and hold the calm. The sounds are muted, softened by layers of straw and wood, but the presence of life is tangible and warm. Sleepers wrapped in cloaks and layered clothing find rest not only in the warmth, but in the shared proximity. A quiet, unspoken bond forged by shared shelter and trust. Pilgrims on long journeys find themselves often under the stars. Their rest fleeting, but no less sacred. The roads they travel are ancient, winding paths threaded through forests, fields, and villages, each step heavy with hope and devotion. Their nights might be spent beneath the canopy of great trees, the rough stone steps of a chapel, or beside wells where generations before them had knelt in prayer. Their bedding is humble cloaks rolled into makeshift pillows, worn boots tucked. Beside them, staffs leaned carefully against nearby trees or stones. Around them, The scents of wood smoke and earth mingle with faint hints of wild herbs carried on the breeze. The stars above offer silent company, their constellations a guide across the vast, darkened land. The night's sounds are a soft chorus. Rustle of leaves, the distant barking of a dog, the whisper of wind through branches. In this fragile shelter, the pilgrim's minds may drift to memories of home, prayers whispered in quiet hope, or dreams of the sacred places ahead. Sleep comes slow, gentle, and deep, cradled by the night's embrace. In the hills and uplands, shepherds live lives woven closely with the land and their animals. Their days stretch long over the rolling pastures, and their nights are often spent under the wide open sky. Wrapped in woolen cloaks, heavy with the scent of sheep and earth, their beds are simple, fashioned from grass and soft fleece. Tucked close to the flock they tend, the quiet crackle of a small fire offers warmth and comfort. Its flickering light a fragile beacon in the dark. The shepherd listens to the soft breathing of the animals, the occasional bleat or shuffle of hooves, the subtle shift of the wind through the grass. These sounds become a soothing melody, a natural chorus that lulls the watcher into a light, attentive sleep. The forest at night is a world of mystery and silence, a place where the boundaries between the natural and the human blur, hermits seeking solitude, outlaws hiding from pursuers, and wanderers seeking refuge find beds made of moss and leaves, wrapped in damp cloaks heavy with the night's chill. The air is thick with the scent of pine, damp earth, and fallen leaves. The forest breathes softly, the creak of branches, the call of an owl, the rustle of small animals moving unseen through underbrush. Sleep here is a fragile gift, a moment of peace held carefully amidst shadows and silence. The night's vastness is intimate and overwhelming at once, inviting the sleeper to surrender gently to its rhythms. Within the stone walls of monasteries, courtyards, and gardens offer serene places of rest. The sick and penitent might lie beneath the stars amid beds of herbs and flowers, the cool night air heavy with the scents of rosemary, lavender, and thyme. The distant toll of a bell echoes softly, marking the passage of time and prayer. Here, sleep is a sacred passage, a quiet communion between earth and spirit. The gentle murmur of prayer, the soft rustle of leaves, the distant call of nightbirds create a peaceful atmosphere that invites deep rest. The stone walls, cool and ancient, seem to hold the night gently, sheltering those within from the world beyond. Soldiers on campaign find their nights restless and brief. Their camps are scattered across fields and woods, tents pitched hurriedly, or shelters dug shallow into the earth. Armor is heavy and uncomfortable, but often remains on a necessary burden even in sleep. Fires burn low, their warm glow casting flickering shadows across tired faces. Watches are kept silent and vigilant, while others steal precious moments of sleep beneath the endless sky. The sounds of night, soft voices, shifting feet, crackling flames, form a fragile backdrop to the soldier's dreams, fleeting and fragile as the stars above. Travelers, merchants, and wanderers resting wherever the land permits, find their nights filled with natural sound and light. A river's gentle murmur, the rustle of grass in the breeze, the distant bark of dogs, all form a soothing soundscape. Sleep is vital, even if brief, a momentary surrender to rest before the journey resumes. The night is alive, never silent. Crickets chirp steadily, leaves rustle softly. Night birds call in the distance. Water trickles over stones. The wind sighs through branches. These sounds weave together into a symphony of calm that cradles sleepers gently. Inviting peace, seasons mark the passing of nights with changing scents, sounds, and moods. Spring brings the fresh fragrance of new blooms and the songs of returning birds, promising renewal. Summer nights are warm and fragrant, alive with the hum of insects and the flicker of fireflies. Autumn's crisp air carries the scent of drying leaves and distant wood smoke, inviting reflection. Winter's chill is biting, blanketing the earth, in frost and snow, demanding fires and thick clothing for warmth. Beneath these vulnerable skies, trust and community flourish. Fires are shared. Watchful eyes keep silent vigil. Strangers find comfort in quiet presence. Sleep becomes a shared act of peace, a ceremony that binds people together. Dreams float softly through the darkness, weaving stories of fields, saints, battles, and journeys. They speak in a secret language between the sleeping mind and the vast unknown. Above, as dawn's light slowly spreads across the horizon, those who have slept beneath the stars awaken gently, carrying the quiet strength of rest and the calm blessing of night's embrace. As the first pale light of dawn begins to brush the eastern horizon, a subtle shift stirs the sleeping world beneath the stars. The cool darkness gently retreats, replaced by soft hues of lavender, rose, and gold. The night's profound stillness yields to the early chorus of awakening birds, their songs tentative and sweet in the quiet morning air. Slowly, the earth exhales a breath drawn deep and slow shirring, and a new day as sleepers stir beneath the fading stars. For those who have rested outdoors, the transition from night to day is a delicate unfolding. The chill of night lingers, wrapped in mist that curls gently among the grasses and clings to the rough bark of trees. The sleepers rise slowly, their limbs heavy but refreshed, their breaths mingling with the moist air. Woolen cloaks, stiffened by dew, are gathered close, and fires kindled anew offer warmth against the lingering coolness. The fields, still soft with night's embrace, seem transformed in this early light. The golden stalks of grain sway gently in the morning breeze, glistening with dew like scattered jewels. Nearby, birds flit through the branches, their delicate movements casting fleeting shadows on the earth below. The scent of damp soil rises, mingling with the faint smoke of morning fires. Bread baking and fresh herbs gathered in bundles as workers shake off the weight of sleep. They prepare for the day's labor, gathering tools, tending to animals, and readying themselves to return once again to the rhythms of earth and sky. Yet for a few lingering moments, there is peace in the quiet morning, a sacred space held between night's surrender and day's demands. In barns and haylofts, the dawn is marked by a subtle stirring. The animals, horses, cows, sheep, begin to shift and nudge gently, their breath warm and soft in the cool air. The human sleepers rise with careful movements, mindful of the fragile calm. Lanterns are extinguished, the faint glow fading into the growing light. The scent of hay, warmed by night, mingles with fresh morning air as doors open to welcome the new day. Pilgrims awake slowly, their bodies sore from the night's rest, but their spirits renewed. They rise beneath the soft canopy of trees or beside weathered stones, gathering their belongings with quiet reverence. The road ahead beckons, winding onward through fields, forests, and villages yet unseen. The stars fade and disappear, but their light lingers softly in memory, silent guides for journeys, both physical and spiritual, in the hills. Shepherds rouse their flocks, their hands skilled and sure, despite the early hour. Fires burn low, embers glowing faintly as coals are stirred. Cloaks are wrapped tight against the chill. Voices rise in quiet greetings as the world slowly awakens. The songs of morning birds blend with the bleating of sheep and the gentle rustle of grass in the breeze. The day begins anew, framed by the calm promise of dawn. The forest holds its own gentle magic in the early light. Shadows retreat slowly from the trunks of towering trees, and moss and leaves glisten with dew. The air is rich with the scent of pine and earth, a fragrance deep and ancient. Those who rest here rise with reverence, mindful of the sacred silence. The sounds of small creatures stirring birdsong, scurrying feet, the soft rustle of branches compose a quiet hymn to the day's awakening. Monasteries, too, greet the dawn with solemn grace. Courtyards and gardens fill with pale light, the air heavy with the scent of herbs and flowers, tended with loving care. The soft tolling of bells marks the hour of morning prayer, calling the faithful to reflection and devotion. Those who have slept beneath the stars rise with gentle hearts, ready to embrace the rhythms of monastic life once more. Soldiers on campaign meet the dawn with guarded eyes and weary bones. Camps stir slowly, fires rekindled to chase the morning chill. Armor is checked and secured, weapons prepared, and quiet orders exchanged. Though rest was brief and uneasy, it has renewed their strength for the day ahead. The open sky fades into light, but the memory of stars. Night returns gently, as it always does. The day folds in on itself, light giving way to shadow, sound yielding to silence. In the soft hush of evening, the world prepares once again for rest. Lanterns are dimmed, hearths die down, fields grow quiet, and above it all, the sky opens wide, a deepening vault of velvet blue. Stars stir awake in its vast body, one by one, each one familiar and ancient. This is where sleep begins, not with the closing of eyes, but with the soft retreat of the world in the medieval countryside, far from castles or cathedrals. Sleep often came slowly, shaped by the earth and sky. For those who lived closest to the land, the night was not a thing to fear, but a part of daily life. Sleep might come in a field, under a tree, beside a barn, or along the banks of a quiet stream. Walls were a luxury, a roof, sometimes a hope. But the sky was always there, constant, unjudging, endlessly open. The open sky fades into light only with morning. Until then, it watches quietly. Imagine now a low hill, rising gently from a patchwork of fields. The grasses sway softly in the breeze, heavy with the scent of evening dew and hay. The sun has long set, but its memory lingers along the horizon in faded purples and blues. Atop this hill, a family of gleaners has settled for the night. They've spent the day gathering the leftover stalks from a harvest not their own. Their hands are raw, their feet blistered, but they have bread in their bag, cheese wrapped in linen, and a worn blanket between them. Their sleep is simple, laid out along a small hollow in the earth, cushioned with grass wrapped in homespun, cloaks that smell faintly of smoke and sweat. They murmur to each other in low tones, a lullaby, maybe, or just quiet words of thanks. They do not talk long. The stars above are already wheeling, their slow arc promising another day soon to come. The earth accepts their weight without complaint, and sleep, that most democratic gift, drapes gently over them all. Elsewhere, beside the slow bend of a river, a miller's apprentice lies curled on a stone bench just outside the mill. The wheel creaks gently in the darkness, turning even now, its rhythmic sound a kind of lullaby. The boy's head rests on a folded tunic. His boots remain on. His dreams, when they come, are filled with water and sky. The turning wheel mirrored endlessly in sleep, in forest clearings, where the scent of pine thickens with the dark lone figures wrap themselves in heavy cloaks and lean against tree trunks, slick with moss. These are men between towns, women traveling alone, a youth fleeing punishment, a midwife delayed on her way home. Their sleep is shallow but sacred. Around them, the forest rustles with life. Foxes pass by, unseen but near. Owls blink slowly overhead. The trees, towering an old creek with the weight of centuries. The sleepers' breaths rise like mist, fading into the black canopy above. Even the animals have their ways of rest. Sheep huddled tightly together under the stars, warmed by shared wool and instinct. Cows lie down in darkened pastures, their breath rising in soft plumes. Dogs curl near fires, ears twitching in sleep. Chickens roost high in beams, heads tucked under wings. The night is not empty. It is full of slumbering life, each creature drawing into itself, waiting patiently for light. Among the poorest of the poor, sleep comes without bedding. A piece of sackcloth, a patch of dry ground, a hollow under an old wall. These were beds of a kind. The comfort lay not in softness, but in stillness. The day's toil done, the body cooling, the mind uncoiling its knot of worries. Even the tired feet, dirty and cracked, find peace in sleep. There is no pillow, only folded arms. Mattress, only the yielding dust. And in monasteries, far removed from fields and markets, monks to rest beneath the stars. On holy nights or during long vigils, they lie in cloisters wrapped in habits, their faces turned toward the heavens. Their prayers drift upward with the smoke of candles. Sleep comes like grace, quiet, undeserved, whole. Across the land, rituals prepare people for rest. A child is sung to, with a tune passed down through generations. A pilgrim recites a psalm. A herdsman rubs oil on sore joints. A woman braids her hair tight to keep the cold from her neck. An old man spits into the fire and mutters a charm. A girl places a sprig of rosemary beneath her blanket, hoping to dream of someone far away. Sleep is not merely a collapse, is an entry, a crossing. And in the medieval night, the threshold between waking and sleeping was treated with reverence. Some believed in night spirit creatures who roamed while people slept. There were tales of Mara, a phantom who sat on the chest and stole one's breath. To prevent her visit, sleepers left a broom at the foot of the bed or said certain prayers. Others believed that dreams could be stolen, if not remembered. By sunrise, some washed their faces with cold water at dawn to keep bad visions from taking root. These customs were old, whispered from grandmother to child, worn soft by time. They made sense not in the light of logic, but in the darker logic of night. Yet, for all these fears, sleep was, above all, a mercy. The hardest days ended in stillness. Even the cruelest lords, the most unforgiving weather, the hungriest bellies could not chase sleep entirely. When it came for all. And it came strongest under the stars. Let us return now to a cart driver resting on the edge of a village. He sleeps beside his wagon, its wooden wheels muddy from days of travel. His horse, tethered loosely, chews quietly nearby. The man's back leans against a sack of oats. His head tilts forward. A small lantern burns beside him, its flame sheltered from the wind. He dreams of roads not yet traveled, of inns he cannot afford, of meals he will eat when luck turns. His hands are rough, his knees ache, but in sleep all of it softens. The night takes him gently. Nearby, 2 washerwomen sleep beside a shallow brook, their linens hanging nearby like ghostly sails in the dark. They have worked through the evening, scrubbing clothes on stones, rinsing in cold water, wringing them dry with hands turned red and raw. Now, wrapped in damp shawls, they lie on the grass. The brook babbles quietly, repeating its song to no one. Overhead, the moonlight reflects in the rivulets of water and in the weary shine of half-closed eyes. They drift slowly into slumber, the cool breath of water curling around them. And, in a village square, after a long feast day, children sleep where they fall. A bench, a stoop, a patch of flagstone, warmed by dancing feet hours before. Their cheeks are sticky with honey. Their curls are tangled with wildflowers. Somewhere, a fiddler plays one last tune, soft as a whisper. The stars blink, the torches gutter, and all around, the night spreads like a blanket, tucking each little one into place. Not far from the sleepy village square, a young scribe lies beneath the crumbling stone wall of a half-finished church. His parchment is rolled neatly beneath. His head, his ink-stained fingers curled lightly in rest. By candlelight earlier, he had copied prayers, illuminated margins with delicate symbols, and outlined the contours of saints long past. Now the night has stolen his sight, and even the saints have closed their eyes. He dreams not of pages or quills, but of wind in tall grass, of voices long forgotten, and of stars that draw lines no human hand could imitate. The quiet around him is profoundly the faint clatter of shutters in the breeze and the sighing of wind through narrow alleyways. The stones beneath him are cold, but they hold the warmth of 1,000 footsteps past. He sleeps with reverence, as though even the sky has hushed to watch him. In the hills beyond, a woodcutter sleeps beside a felled tree. His axe lies near, its blade dull with sap. All day he had worked alone, each swing echoing in the deep woods. Now the silence is a balm. The tree stump he uses as a seat now cradles his back. His beard is thick with wood dust, his boots caked with earth. But here, in this clearing, there is peace. The moon above filters through the leaves, painting pale silver on the forest floor. An owl calls once, then twice. The woodcutter does not stir. His breath is slow, his limbs slack. Nature, which he carved by daylight, now wraps itself around him in gentle embrace. The forest, once filled with the sounds of his labor, now holds his silence like a secret. Not far away, under the open eaves of a stable, a woman sleeps with her infant beside her. They are wrapped together in a faded wool cloak, their heads touching. The child's breath is soft and warm against her neck. She hums, barely audible, a melody passed down from her own mother. It has no words, only breath, memory, and quiet. Comfort. The straw beneath them crackles as they shift. A goat stirs nearby, its eyes reflecting faint torchlight. She sleeps in small moments, waking often to listen. But when she closes her eyes, she dreams of meadows and bread ovens, of spinning wheels and apple trees. Her world, though small, is full of meaning. Sleep, for her, is borrowed, precious, and always interrupted, but it is hers. The open air cools her brow, its stars wheel overhead, silent witnesses to this bond between mother and child. In another field, further still, a tinker has settled beside his cart. He carries knives, pots, and clever repairs, all hung with hooks and ropes. Tonight, his trade sleeps too. The pots clink gently in the wind. He lies on a piece of canvas, a sack beneath his head, a dog curled at his feet. His beard is uneven. His shoes are mended many times. His dreams are scattered, some from towns he's passed, others from stories half heard in taverns, or glimpses of faces he will never see again. He does not fear the night. It has long been his companion. He knows it sounds the way foxes cry, the far-off bark of dogs, the strange calls of owls. He knows which branches creak with wind and which with footsteps. He sleeps with one ear open and one eye half closed. And yet, when slumber finally takes him, it is deep and kind. The road will call again tomorrow, but for now, the sky is his. Roof and the earth is enough. Elsewhere, a small group of musicians sleeps in a wagon tilted under a tree. Their instruments lie beside them, a lute missing a string, a sackpipe wrapped in cloth, a drum with a broken hide. They played until the moon was high, their songs drifting across fields and lanes. Now, silence. One man snores lightly. Another mumbles in his sleep. A woman curls against a folded cloak, a flower still woven in her braid. They are not rich, but their dreams are painted in color. They sleep deeply, their bodies tired from dancing, their fingers sore from strings. The stars above seem to twinkle in rhythm to some quiet melody they've yet to write. In their dreams, perhaps, the notes still echo. The night wears on, as it always does, measured not by clocks, but by the slow tilt of the moon. Across meadows, behind hedges, under bridges, near streams, people drift into sleep. Their muscles release, their thoughts soften, blur, and float. Some dream of firelight, others of wheat fields. Some dream of feast days, others of famine. Some dream in color, others in sound. All are held gently beneath the hush of night. It is a strange thing, sleep. For a few hours, it levels kings and beggars, soldiers and saints. It erases hunger, softens fear, and slows the hammer of grief. For those hours, a person belongs not to the world, but to the quiet inside them. In the deepest part of night, even the stars seem to pause. The sky is so black, it almost hums. The earth grows colder. The breeze sharpens. Fires are reduced to faint orange hearts, hidden in ash. In this hush, all things are equal. No voice speaks, no foot moves. It is the sacred hour. The breath of the world is barely heard, and somewhere in the tall grass, a boy stirs. He is no older than 10, a shepherd's child left with the flock while others rest. He opens his eyes and sees the stars. He does not know their names, but he knows their comfort. He shifts beneath his woolen blanket, pulls it up over his chin, and watches the sky move for a little while. Then he closes his eyes once more, and the world disappears again, and still the night deepens, folding in around the sleepers like a heavy quilt. The moon climbs, its pale light casting long shadows over low walls and tilled earth. In this hour, the world feels older, as though time itself has loosened its grip. The trees no longer seem like trees, but ancient beings standing watch. Wind, cool and steady, carries the scents of earth, ash, and wool. It is not a time for speech, but for silence and rest, and the surrender of thought. Under a wide wooden bridge, a fisherman sleeps. His nets lie coiled beside him, still damp from the last cast. The river hums just beneath, always moving, always speaking. His head rests on a bundle of rushes, his body curled toward the warmth of a low fire. By day, he is quiet, by night, even more so. But his dreams are vivid, full of water and sky, fish that speak, and boats that drift to far-off lands. The stars he watches before sleep are the same ones that guide him when mist clings to the dawn, far from the river. On the edge of a crumbling stone road, a pair of pilgrims sleep beside a shrine. The shrine itself is little more than a small cross nestled in a stack of mossy rocks, with a carving of the Virgin barely visible beneath ivy. They have walked for weeks through sun and rain, hunger and pain. Their feet are blistered, their cloaks threadbare. But they are near their journey's end, and tonight they rest with gratitude. They have eaten what little bread remained. Leans against the shrine's base. The other lies wrapped in a woolen blanket. They speak only once, before drifting off, words too soft to carry. Behind closed eyes, they dream of saints and holy relics, of bells ringing in distant churches. The shrine offers no shelter from wind, no warmth. But still, they sleep peacefully under stars older than memory. In the distance, a watchman patrols the walls of a small town. His footsteps echo on the stone, slow and deliberate. He carries a lantern, its glow pale and flickering in the dark. Below him, the houses are quiet, their windows shuttered, their fires low. He pauses to peer out beyond the gates, where the land fades into darkness. There is nothing, only stillness. And yet, he watches. He walks. He hums a tune, low and steady, like a heartbeat. His duty is not to sleep, but to protect the sleep of others. And so, he walks just outside the town, near the tree line. A pair of weavers lie wrapped together on a bed of straw. Their loom is tied with rope and draped with cloth to protect it from dew. They've traveled for days, selling wool dyed with herbs weld in madder, nettle and woad. Their hands are stained with color, their eyes rimmed with fatigue. They do not speak, only rest, limbs entwined, breathing slow and deep. Their dreams are full of color, not faces or words, but hues and textures. Indigo skies, rust-red cloaks, the softness of lamb's wool, the coarseness of flax. They sleep soundly, wrapped in their trade, wrapped in each other and nearby. Not far from where forest and field meet, a beggar lies alone. His coat is patched with scraps of every cloth imaginable. His shoes have no soles. His blanket is a sackcloth, yet he sleeps. His head rests on a bundle of leaves, and his eyes, when closed, twitched beneath the lids. He dreams of warmth, of bread, of stories told around fires. Perhaps he was once a mason, or a thief, or a father. His life is hidden now, known only to the night. But sleep does not ask for titles. It comes even to him, as the moon begins its descent. The world seems to exhale. Shadows grow shorter. The stars dim, just slightly. There is a change in the breeze. Somewhere, a rooster stirs. Somewhere, a candle is lit, but most still sleep. The deep sleep of farmers who have given their strength to the soil. The shallow sleep of travelers, always listening. The rhythmic sleep of animals, swaying gently in their stalls. And the dreamless sleep of infants, wrapped in cloth, cradled in arms. Hearts beating in unison with the earth. This sleep, shared by all, is a kind of unity. It erases the walls of class and creed. The nobleman sleeping in a saddle while hunting. The peasant curled under a wagon. The monk resting in a cloister. The widow alone with her grief beneath a tree. All are equal here. All are small beneath the sky. All are held by the same dark, kissed by the same wind, watched by the same stars. And what of those stars? So distant, so silent, and yet, to the medieval mind, full of meaning. They were not random lights, but messages, markers, guardians, each constellation a story. Orion the hunter, Cassiopeia, the queen, the Pleiades, weeping sisters, to sleep. Beneath them was to lie beneath myth, beneath legend, beneath the gaze of the eternal. Some believed that stars recorded the lives of men, that the brightest ones marked births or deaths, that a shooting star was a soul ascending. Others watched for signs of harvest, of illness, of war. The sky was not far away. It was a book to be read, a clock to be followed. And when you slept, under it, you became a part of its story. There were those who spoke of dreams as journeys, that while the body lay still, the spirit traveled to mountains, to cities, to places long gone. Some said the soul hovered just above the body, like mist. Others believed it flew far and might not return if startled. That was why loud noises at night were feared not for the waking, but for the pulling back of the soul too fast. It could tear or forget or wander. To protect themselves, some tied small charms near their sleeping place. A thread dyed red, a carved symbol, a prayer written on bark. Others whispered blessings before sleep, calling on saints or ancestors. A few lit herb sage yarrow, mugwort to ward off spirits and ease dreams. These customs, old even then, offered a kind of armor for the night, but not all sought protection. Some welcomed the dreams. They believed sleep opened doors that waking minds could not enter, that messages came in the form of a feather, a song, a familiar voice, that love could visit again, that fear could be faced safely, that truth lived in sleep and woke with you if you let it. The quiet deepens. The moon lowers slowly behind the hills, casting the land into even gentler shadows. There is no rush, no need. The world is wrapped in its own breathing. Even the wind, once restless, has softened, carrying now only the smell of damp earth and fading embers. Along the edge of a vineyard, a group of laborers sleeps where they fell, their baskets of harvested grapes stacked nearby. Their hands are stained deep purple, their fingernails dark with soil. They have worked from sun's rise to its fall, singing softly at first, then growing silent with fatigue. They lie with arms outstretched, some resting heads, unfolded arms, others still clutching the hems of their tunics. The scent of crushed grapeskin and dust clings to them, sweet and sour. The vines rustle faintly in the dark, their leaves still trembling from the day's heat. Owls move overhead, ghostly and quiet, surveying the scene like sentinels. The sky above, cloudless and infinite, holds every sleeper in its gaze. In a meadow far beyond, two old friends lie on opposite sides of a campfire, its glow now little more than a red flicker. They have walked many miles, their talk giving way to silence hours ago. One dreams with a soft smile on his lips. The other snores gently, his hand resting on the hilt of a small knife tucked beneath his cloak. They trust the land. They trust the fire. They trust each other. The earth beneath them is dry and firm, scattered with wild thyme and clover. Somewhere nearby, a fox moves cautiously through the underbrush, unnoticed. The fire, barely alive, pulses like a heart. Above them, constellations slowly revolve, the sky's vast wheel turning silently. In the lowlands beyond, A woman lies with her feet in a stream. Her journey has been long, and the cold water is a balm to her swollen ankles. She rests on her side, one hand trailing lazily through the reeds. Her bag is tucked beneath her arm. Her eyes, though closed, still twitch faintly with wakefulness. But sleep is close now, brushing against her mind like wind in tall grass. She does not fear the water. She grew up near rivers, where sleep and flowing current have always gone hand in hand. She dreams of swimming, of floating, of being carried. The stars ripple in the water's reflection, fractured but shimmering. Even in dream, she moves gently downstream, away from worry, toward the unknown. In a garden behind a convent wall, two young novices lie on blankets in the grass. It is a rare gift, this night away from stone floors and hard benches. They whisper prayers at first, then silence takes them. One dreams of her mother's voice, the other of bells ringing in the distance. Their fingers, unconsciously, rest against rosary beads. They are wrapped in borrowed cloaks, still scented faintly with incense. The hedges around them shield them from wind, and the moonlight paints the tops of the flowers pale white. Even the flowers seem to sleep. Heads bow slightly, petals close tight. The garden holds its breath, as though afraid to disturb them. The air is full of the scent of lavender and sage, of mint and crushed rose leaves. It is a holy place, and sleep here feels like a sacrament. Near the edge of a craggy moor, a man sleeps inside a hollow formed by rocks. The stone above curves, just enough to break the wind. A sheepdog lies beside him, alert but still. The man has wrapped himself in every scrap of cloth he owns. He clutches his hat against his chest. He does not stir. He has lived his life on these hills, walked them in snow and in fire, in fog and in bloom. He knows where to find shelter, where to light fire, where the foxes hide, and where the birds nest. Tonight, he has no fire, but the stars are enough. The cold is sharp, but not cruel. He sleeps like a stone, himself silent, solid, deep. And down in a city, in the quiet after midnight, where stone buildings lean close over narrow lanes, an apothecary's assistant curls up beneath a wooden stair. He has stayed late cleaning vials, grinding powders, sweeping ash from the hearth. He could not afford a bed tonight, but here, in the shadow of an alley, he has found rest. His hands smell of dried herbs and vinegar. His clothes are thin, but he has layered them well. A small jar of lavender oil rests beside him. He uncorked it before sleep, letting the scent carry him to dreams. His eyes close slowly, and in time, his breathing matches the rhythm of dripping water nearby. Sleep, when it comes, is soft and heady, like a dream soaked in scent. Above him, a small window glows faintly. Someone inside is still awake. But outside, below the stair, he is alone and at peace. The city around him groans with age, but tonight it offers a quiet corner, and that is enough. In another alley, closer to the gate, a cat curls around the ankles of a peddler sleeping with her cart. She has draped a wool cloak over the top of it, forming a makeshift tent. Her wares candles, beads, carved buttons are bundled in cloths beneath her. She lies just beside the wheel, her arms slung across a basket of trinkets. The cat purrs, slow and low. The cart creaks gently as it settles. Above them, the stars peer down between chimney tops and roof beams. The city sleeps. The countryside sleeps. The forest sleeps. The world, for now, is at rest, a little ways beyond the town's edge. Where fields give way to marshland, a hunter sleeps on a mossy rise between two pools. His bow is wrapped in cloth beside him, his quiver beneath his knees. He has tracked nothing all day. The trails were old, the woods too quiet, but he has eaten a few mushrooms, a crust of bread, water from the stream, and now he sleeps with the patience of a man long acquainted with disappointment. The ground beneath him is soft and damp, but his cloak is heavy, and the air is still. Bullfrogs croak faintly in the distance, and once or twice the long, lonely trill of a nightjar echoes through the reeds. He hears it in sleep. It folds into his dream like a thread, tugging him gently through a world shaped by wind and leaf and memory. There he walks among deer who do not flee, under trees taller than towers. With a sky forever at dusk, the bog mist rises slowly, curling in tendrils around his boots, touching his skin with fingers cool and wet. But he does not stir. He sleeps deeply, wrapped not in comfort, but in familiarity. The land has known him for years, and he it. They trust each other as much as any man and wilderness ever can. In a sheltered hollow near a monastery, a mute bellringer lies curled in the crook of a root. His hands are stained from pulling rope, his knees calloused from kneeling. All day he has walked silently among the stones, tending candles, carrying water, sweeping steps. He knows no speech, but his eyes carry stories of grief, of patience, of kindness. Now, beneath the branches of an ancient elm, he rests. A woolen scarf is wrapped around his head, its ends tucked under his chin. His breath is visible in the night air, slow and even. His palms lie upward, fingers slightly curled, as though offering something even in sleep. He dreams without sound, only light and color, and the deep toll of bells echoing far into the dark. Back near the coast, beneath a craggy cliff where the waves whisper constantly, a sailor sleeps on the sand. He is between voyages, far from a harbor, yet close to home. His skin is weathered, his beard short and white. He sleeps with his boots on one hand over his chest, the other on the hilt of a rusted blade. But his sleep is peaceful, like the sea on a windless night. The tide laps gently at the shore, never quite reaching him, but always near. The scent of salt fills his lungs. He dreams of ships, not battles or storms, but smooth sailing, the crack of canvas, the call of gulls. The stars overhead seem to reflect the stars he once steered by. He smiles once in sleep, just once. The sea watches and keeps its silence, near a high pasture where sheep graze in the day. A shepherd girl sleeps in a circle of standing stones. She has laid out her blanket in the center, where the wind is least fierce. Her crook rests across her chest, her lantern now dark. She hums in her dreams melodies known only to her notes that do not survive the morning. The stones around her rise like old bones, moss-covered, ancient, sacred. She does not fear them. They are her night's guardians. The sky above her is vast and cloudless. Her eyes remain shut, but the moonlight touches her face softly. Her dreams wander through hills and thistles, over brooks and valleys. into stories told by her grandmother beside a spinning wheel. Sleep has taken her completely. The grass does not move beneath her. The stones do not speak. But together they hold her, gently, quietly, until dawn, far to the south. In the lee of a dry wall built by a forgotten hands, a mason rests with his back against cool stone. He carries nothing but his chisel and a loaf of bread wrapped in wax cloth. His clothes are dusty, his beard full of grit. He came to this place only to rest for a while and fell asleep without meaning to. His body is heavy with labor. His hands twitched faintly with the memory of stone. In his sleep, he carves arches and doorways, saints in niches, columns rising skyward. There is no limit in dream, no cracked mortar, no crooked joints, just perfect weight, perfect symmetry, perfect stillness. The wall behind him does not mind his presence. It was made to last, and he understands that language. Near the end of night, the animals begin to stir. A dog whines softly, dreaming of something only it understands. A horse shifts its weight in a paddock, stamping once. Birds begin to rustle, quietly at first, as though unsure of the hour. And still, most of the world remains asleep, wrapped in the last dark blanket of night. Above all, the stars begin to dim, fading one by one into the growing gray. Not all at once, but slowly, softly, as though they too are ready to rest.